Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 with the Morning Majority on a Thursday morning in D.C. It is Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, and Tori Clark in again for Mary Catherine Ham. Thanks for coming in, Tori.
Thank you, sir.
Dan Bongino joins us now. He's a candidate for Senate from the state of Maryland. We had him in the studio a couple of months ago. Very impressive guy. Also worked for the Secret Service for a very long time. Worked in the New York City Police Department. He joins us on the line. Dan, I want to get to politics in a second, but I have to ask you, as a former Secret Service agent, we were puzzled as to how it was possible for it to take 4 days before they even noticed that a bullet may have hit the White House and actually hit a window on the top floor. How does that happen?
Yeah, disturbing. I don't know if it really took 4 days. I don't have any inside baseball, having left the service a while ago. But I think they may have known that earlier, and the politics of it may have gotten involved. Again, that's just my opinion. I don't know anymore, but knowing the Secret Service, they do an exhaustive review anytime something like this happens around the White House. I'd be shocked if they didn't know that earlier.
That's actually a little reassuring.
Yeah. Because we were wondering, we think that there were people on the roof at all times, and if you were hearing gunshots anywhere near the White House, there would be just, you would at least look around to see if anything actually hit, and it was like 4 days.
Well, they call it the Secret Service for a reason. Maybe they were keeping a close hold on it, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question. When we saw 9/11, one of the reactions to 9/11 was to shut down Pennsylvania Avenue because there was a fear that, a truck bomb could get close to the White House there. It might do theoretically some damage. And so they shut down Pennsylvania Avenue. Now that we know it's possible for somebody to drive by with an AK-47 on Constitution Avenue, take pot shots, and actually hit windows of the residence part of the White House, do you think that the Secret Service will ask consideration that stretch of road be shut down? Well,
I can tell you from my experience, they are not an arrogant agency. They realize that mistakes are always made. The human error is natural, and they're very good at adjusting, lifting and shifting and changing their tactics. If you think about it, after the Reagan shooting, they never did uncovered arrivals anymore. In other words, they arrive underground now, so nobody knows when he's getting out of the car, when he's not. So they change their procedures relatively frequently. So I would expect that they'll do some kind of exhaustive review on this, and there'll be some implementation of a new procedure around the White House.
This wouldn't surprise you then?
No.
So Dan, we could go on forever just asking you questions about the White House, people shooting at the White House, D.C. occupiers, what would you do with it? But I have to ask you, you've had this amazing career in professions that many, many people would consider so important. You and your wife have successful businesses running. I'm all for anybody who runs small businesses because I know how hard that is. What is possessing you to run for public office?
I just felt like it was time for real people with real leadership backgrounds and CVs of leadership to get off the couch, just to be frank, and do something. Talk is great. And listen, everybody has to change the world in their own little way. But this was my way of doing it. I knew it was a dramatic shift. Leaving my job behind was tough. Leaving my health benefits, honestly, was the hardest. My wife is pregnant. But this was my way of doing it. And I felt that, win, lose, or draw, this story was really going to resonate with people. And we've been very lucky. It has. The media's been very generous to us. They've picked up the story for us quite a bit.
All right, so here's a tough question for you, because you've got a background in psychology. You worked as a Secret Service agent in a police department, and now you want to be a politician. How would you handle these protesters that Occupy Wall Street or Occupy D.C.? They say they are going to take to the streets today in New York. They're also planning this big march here in D.C. Then they perhaps may try and close down the Key Bridge. What's the best way to handle these protesters?
Sure. Well, listen, everybody respects free speech. I'd fight and die for it personally, but that doesn't entitle you to take away everyone else's free speech. You've had 2 months in Zuccotti Park to get your message out there. I respect that. I don't agree with your message, but I respect that. But enough's enough. What about the other people that want to use the park? The park has to be shut down. If I was in charge in New York, I would have given them a reasonable amount of time to get their message out there, 2 and 3 weeks, and that's it. It doesn't entitle you to pitch a tent in the middle of Fifth Avenue and say, this is my free speech right. Other people have free speech rights as well. So, yeah, it's time to shut it down. They're more than welcome to get a permit and protest like everyone else does, but they're not entitled to sleep in the streets. Some of the stuff that's been going on there is absurd.
So what chance do you think you have in this race? Democrats have traditionally dominated politics in the Free State. It's a heavy lift to try to run against an established Democrat like Ben Cardin.
Sure. We have a very nonpartisan economic jobs message that's really been resonating. We do parades in Montgomery County, and I'll explain to people my platform, which, again, is very nonpartisan on jobs. It's about jobs. And people say, give me one of those palm cards, and they're largely Democratic. There's no question it's an uphill battle. But people are looking for change, and I don't mean that in some kind of hopey-changey, telenovela way. I mean it legitimately. We get out there, and people say, listen, I'm just tired of politics. Get them all out. I get to throw the bums out, to use a quote that's thrown around all the time. So I think our chances are legitimate. We have 800 volunteers. We just passed 500 donors. We have an impressive organization. I took a lot of my friends from the White House, my consultant friends, and we've been doing pretty well. I'm very happy where we stand.
We're at $15 trillion in debt right now. Super committee is meeting. No one really knows sure if they're going to come up with something. Perhaps there'll be deep cuts into defense and maybe deep cuts into Medicare. Would you like to see something come out of this super committee? What exactly would it be, and what could you get behind as a United States Senator to vote for out of the super committee?
Sure. There's some exhaustive research on fiscal adjustments with countries who are in a very specific situation, mounds of debt as a percentage of GDP, right at this specific point. The data points to one thing conclusively just about every time. Any fiscal adjustment based on increased tax loads fails an overwhelming percentage of the time. And it should be obvious. You can't drain more money out of the private economy, expect the private economy to grow, and then in turn pay off mounds of debt. It would seem like a tautological fact, but ideology is getting in the way. And no one's saying we don't need increased revenues. We do. We have to pay off debt, but we don't need increased rates. There's a difference. The two aren't necessarily correlated, and that's where people are making the mistake. Rates and revenues are not the same thing.
If people wanted to learn more about what you stand for, where can they go to get information?
Bongino, BONGINO.com. That's our website. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well.
All right.
Thank you, Dan. Good to have you on. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.